So tonight we're going to be doing a workshop about abstract watercolors. My favorite way to paint is abstract. Although I can't do realism. Let's just put it that let's just put that out there. I'm not a realist at all. And I like to be loose when I'm painting. I like to let the paint and many times do the work for me, and watercolor is beautiful for that. I will let you know that as an artist, and my name, if you don't know, is Tristina Dietz Elms. I'm an artist in Florida, and most of the time I'm working in acrylics, mixed media, uh, but I do love watercolors because the way that you can work with the water to really make the paint do unusual things. And that's what we're going to be looking at tonight is working with watercolor in a way it's actually very relaxing. The way we're going to be playing with it tonight, because we're not just making abstract watercolors with watercolor, we're also working back into those watercolor works, excuse me, with fun markers or like black permanent marker, white marker. And I'll show you some tricks for doing that, especially to get the whites. It's not easy to get the whites on top of your watercolors. So I have a couple of tricks for you up my sleeve for that. Uh, Michael Wilbur says he makes surreal paintings. Ooh, I love that. I love that. As a matter of fact, I live near St. Petersburg in Florida, and that's where the Dali Museum is. And he's what, like the king of surrealism, right? That he some way out stuff there. I love that museum. Love it, love it, love it. The last time I went, they also had an MC Escher display. That's why I went, because I love MC Escher's work. So I don't know if you know MC Escher, but if you haven't heard of him before, check him out because it's mind blowing as well. Oh, so here are a couple of the works that I made for tonight, and they are available in my Whatnot shop. But let me show you. This is the feel that we're talking about, something very wishy washy, fun. Then we work back in. It's very meditative to put these marks back into there. This painting I call Purple Storm, and it's already matted and ready to go into a frame, and it is available on Whatnot under the Buy Now tab. Feel free to make an offer tonight while we're live too, because I love to entertain offers. That was the first one. The second one, using the same general techniques, is this one. So it's all of these fun circles, and you actually use white space to your advantage. I love that. I think that a lot of people think they have to fill their whole page when it comes to art, and you don't. You absolutely do not have to fill the whole page. Leave some white space, and then the white space gives you the opportunity to put some other fun um, shapes and colors in order to really zhuzh up your artwork. And doing all of these circles and everything, also very meditative. I like to do that when I'm having my coffee and breakfast in the morning. This piece is called, I call it circular motion. So if you look for circular motion in my catalog over on Whatnot, you'll find that artwork available now with either a white or a black mat. But those are works that I prepared for this workshop. And I was using a book that I was working out of. So, folks who have watched me before know that I love art books, and I have a massive collection of art books. So, this is one that I bought just a couple months ago, probably August or so of 2024. It's called Creative Abstract Watercolor. So the whole book is about the subject of abstract watercolor, but there's a little bit in here also, like on florals. Um, in other words, how to take those abstract concepts and then turn them into something like florals, flowers. Um, just really a lot of fun. And I prefer the abstractness of it. Even this set of concentric circles, I mean, you know that it's circles, and does it have sort of an almost an underwater feel to it, maybe? Um, but it's still abstract. And I love that. So this book is by Kate Rebecca Leach. Kate Rebecca Leach. And her, what would you call it, logo or her name on Instagram, hey Wafflefoot, welcome in, welcome in, is Esoldo Design. So it's Essoldo, Essoldo Designs. And you can find her on Instagram. So I've been following her. I followed her from before she published the book. And then when the book came out, it was like, oh, okay, that definitely went on my book wish list. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to work with some of the concepts from this book um, in order to create a, a couple of abstract watercolor projects. Now, some of these projects required doing some of the work first because there are multiple steps where you put paint down, then you need to let the paint dry, and then you put more paint down, and then after that's dry, you can put your detail work in. So what I've done is I've created um, some samplers, and I've created some of the pieces from the book so that we can just say, okay, that was those first two steps. Now let's go on to the third step, right? So I can show you the various steps within the creative process that she talks about. But I do. Hey, Salmon's girl, welcome in, welcome in. I want to let you know that books like this, like Creative Abstract Watercolor, I will be linking in the description of the video on YouTube. After the YouTube video is over, I go back and I add the links to the paints and the books and the accessories that we're using tonight so that tomorrow you'll be able to find just by going to the live tab on my YouTube channel. You can click on the description and it'll show you links to this book, Creative Abstract Watercolor, as well as some of the paints that we're going to be using tonight and supplies. Um, Let me see. Speaking of supplies, this is a watercolor workshop. So we will be working with watercolor paints, and watercolor paints come in something called pans. So this is a set from Christy Rice that you can see is well loved. And I added some additional colors here that I like to use often in that one. This is very portable, so this is a travel set. And then it also comes in tubes. So I love the creaminess of the tube paint. Just love, love, love it, as opposed to, the hardness of the pans. So I have this ceramic palette, and I can hold it up because I haven't put any water in it yet, but this was from painting over the last couple of days. And you can see I just squeeze out of the tube a blob of the paint, and then I can do my mixing right on here. Plus, you don't have to clean up when you're done. You just rinse your brushes. Otherwise, you can leave your paint here inside the palette. It'll dry like this is dry, and then you can just either spritz it with water or use a brush and reactivate it. And that's one of the many things that I love about watercolor, is really the ease of use. I could even take this, which is dry, and just stick it into, I have a watercolor travel bag. So I can just stick it into my watercolor travel bag and it's ready to use when I get to my destination. Fabulous. So having some sort of palette where you can mix the paint is very helpful. Now, I also use this really cool, and this is also a travel item. This is a collapsible water holder. So it collapses and fits right into my purse. It's awesome. And this is by Faber-Castell. It comes in different colors. And the tulip look around the edge of it is perfect for sticking your brushes in there and holding your brushes. So you can hold, let's see, a whole bunch of brushes on here like this. If you're like me and you use multiple sized brushes as you're working, these are all three different sizes here. And so this will hold those, and I think it's fabulous. So that's usually what I use for my water um, when I'm on the go and in the studio, both. I hate when I leave it in my studio. If I have to go somewhere, it's like, dang, can't believe I forgot that. Now, you can also, I don't know if you know this, but you can buy these containers empty. And then you can also purchase, if they don't have them, these little um, pants for it. So let me show you. This is a box that I have with a bunch of pans in it. Yay, tons of pans. So you can buy the pans like that. These are called watercolor half pans. And then they also have the watercolor full pans, which are bigger. And you can take those. I happen to get ones that had little, these are magnets. So if I wanted to stick the magnet on the bottom, I could put it into a little tin and they would stick to the little tin, like an Altoids tin or something like that. But I bit the bullet and I bought some of Christy Rice's empty travel tins. So what I have done is I have filled this then with my own paints. So these are actually from Critter Chops on Whatnot. Critter Chops is one of the sellers on Whatnot, and he makes his own paint. So this whole side is paint that I bought from Critter Chops. And then over here are other ones that I filled myself and put them in there right from the tube. You can take a tube of watercolor and fill these little pans and then take them with you. And I made my own paper um, with watercolor paper swatches, those are called, so that I know what is in here. I know what they look like when I paint with them when they're dry. So that's a great idea too. I love the Christy Rice ones because they're so pretty. And plus, you're buying from an American artist, and I love that as well. Okay, and what other supplies are we gonna need? We're gonna need some markers for today because we're gonna use, oh, I didn't mention brushes. So of course, my favorite brushes are the Princeton Velvet Touch, but there's for watercolor, but there's also the Princeton Aqua Elite, which is another type of watercolor brush, and I am getting some of those. They're coming. So I'll share those with you when they come. But definitely some watercolor brushes is helpful. And then markers. We're going to be working with my favorite micron markers. This is permanent ink. So that's the beautiful thing is you can either use it before or after the watercolor, meaning you can put it under the watercolor and then put watercolor over it, or you can do your watercolor and then use these markers on top of it. Fabulous. And then the other marker that is, I mean, I love this. It's like I have to know where it is at all times because it's the most amazing brush pen from Japan, from the company Pentel. And here's what the tip of it looks like. It is the most beautiful brush tip pen I have ever used. And I've used a lot of them, but this is my absolute favorite. It is a Pentel pen. And the coolest thing about this is, if I can find them, oh my gosh, you can get refills for this. So I thought I put them right here somewhere on my desk, which is covered in all kinds of stuff. Yes, here they are. So there they are. This is the pocket brush pen refills. So once you run out of the black, you can just get more here. And then it says on the back that this is permanent ink. Now it's more juicy than working with markers like this. So you have to wait a little bit longer for this paint to dry before you go in and you work on top of it. But I'm going to show you some beautiful marks that I make with this pen, my favorite. And it'll be linked in in the description of the video by tomorrow for you, okay? But that's the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen. Oh, and I actually received my brush pen from some folks that work with Pentel at a show, a big art show, and they were like, "Here, take it." And you know, you receive lots of gifts at shows like that. People want artists to take their items and play with them and share them with other artists. Well, let me tell you, I fell in love with it, and it is an absolute staple in my studio now. Have to have it. We're also going to be working with some painter's tape to tape down our paper. Now, as far as paper goes, I have my studio staple right here, and it is the, can you guess? Drum roll, right? It's the Canson XL watercolor paper. This is cold press. That means there's a little bit of texture to the surface of the paper. And I like the paper with the surface texture because it makes the water run in different ways and gives you that organic look to your runny paint. But some people prefer a little bit more crisp edge or crisp lines. And so there's something called hot press paper. This is cold press, which has texture to it, but you may want hot press, and hot press is smooth. It runs through hot rollers and it smooths the paper out. So if you prefer a smooth surface, I recommend you use hot press. Now, when I am practicing, often I want to spend less money, right? Because I go through a lot of paper. So this is my absolute favorite for practicing. It is a mixed media pad. It'll take both dry media and wet media. It is by Fabriano. Fabriano here, Italian paper. This is their big fat pack, okay? So it is thinner than that watercolor paper that I just showed you from Canson. The Canson watercolor paper is what they call 140 pounds. This one is 108 pounds, this mixed media paper. But I love it because it's so versatile and they give you so much that it's perfect for when you're messing around and um, experimenting and trying things. And you can put wet media on it and dry media on it. It has a beautiful, smooth surface, but it has a little bit of tack to it, which is great for all different kinds of media. I highly recommend it. Um, I can't, I can't live without it in my studio for sure. That's one of many. Um, oh, you know what? There was one other watercolor that I'm looking at right now that I'm just going to interject real quick. And that is my favorite golds, the starry colors from Kuretake, Gansai Tambi. So this is beautiful variations of gold and then a white iridescent here. And that can give you that little bit of extra pizzazz when you're working with these abstract watercolors. And let me see. I know there was something else. Ah, yes, drawing, what do they call it? Masking fluid. So this is the Pebeo drawing gum, which is a very famous masking fluid that's been around forever. Um, Winsor Newton makes a drawing gum. I think Liquitex also makes a drawing gum. So a lot of different companies that make watercolors will make a masking fluid. And this is the one, it's blue colored from Pebeo. Usually I gently do this. Hey, Queen to Bohemian, welcome in. I generally will do this in order to um, spread that color throughout. I generally try not to give it a good old shake because it creates lots of bubbles. And so it's easier to use, but you can still get it mixed if you do this. Or you can just shake that sucker up like this and then leave it for 10 minutes and then you're good to go. Okay. I also use the masking fluid and hey, Queen to Bohemian, thanks. Yes. And then I also, have y'all ever seen these? Okay. I love these. These are great because I put masking fluid in them and it has a really teeny tiny, look at this, a little tip like this. But see how it's kind of in a marker or a pen type uh, shape here? amazing. These are amazing. And so you can use these to apply your masking fluid, or you can put inks in here, you can put fluid acrylics in here. They are amazing. Absolutely love them. Now, there's a little pin inside the lid, which is fantastic, especially if you're going to put masking fluid inside them, because that needle can tend to get clogged. And so you want to put the pin back inside, and and then screw it back down, and that helps to keep that pin clean so that you can use it. Is that for glue too? And what are they called? I will be linking it. Oh, cool. I need that. I know, right? These are amazing. Actually, do I have them right here? I'm trying to think of where I have them. I have a box with my watercolors and I have the packaging with it. But remember that on YouTube, so if you're on Whatnot, you can always join my YouTube channel. Just go to Tristina, Tristina, and type artist, and you'll find me. Ooh, somebody had a question. What does it do? What is masking fluid for? Thank you, Rose, for your question over on YouTube. That's excellent. Um, Masking fluid is something that you put on your paper, and oh, thank you very much, Salmon's Girl. She's going to send Queen to Bohemian the link to my YouTube channel. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But when the video is over, then I go back in later tonight or tomorrow morning and I put links to all of these items. So, and I always appreciate it when you use my links to buy art supplies. It's that little bit that helps on the back end. Ah, but masking fluid goes down onto your paper. It is a rubber, okay? It's a gum. And you put it down on your paper to mask out areas where you do not want your paint to penetrate. So let me show you on my sampler, since you asked. This is a sampler that I prepared from the book that we're working from tonight. So if you didn't see it before, we're working from this book called Creative Abstract Watercolor by Isoldo Designs. The author is Kate Rebecca Leach. So we're doing some projects from that book. And one of the things that she shows you how to do in the book is to make samplers, pages with samples of different ways that you can work with watercolor. So one of the ways is to take masking fluid and apply it. You can use a brush to apply masking fluid. However, like for instance in this jar, right? I can just dip a brush in there. But you never want to use a good brush to do that, because what'll happen is when it dries, it gets all rubbery, and then it ruins the brushes. I keep special brushes just for using with masking fluid. They're cheap brushes, but they do the trick. Okay, but this one, as I was showing you, because it had this where you can put masking fluid in with it, it has a small hole here. There are two different sizes. One has a yellow top and one has a blue top. So one is a smaller hole and then a little bit bigger hole. But you can take this then and dispense the masking fluid onto the surface of your artwork. Then you let it dry and then you paint over top of it. And then you either use your fingers to roll the rubber off, because once that rubber is dry, it'll just roll right off the paper, or you can use this as a gum eraser, it's called. Okay. Usually people use this for rubber cement, same sort of thing. You put rubber cement down, you can get the rubber cement up once it's dry with a rubber cement eraser, or sometimes it's called a gum eraser. So here is one of the sample sheets I did from her book. And do you see this right here? This is, I bought those. Oh, cool. This is the what Pebeo calls drawing gum, what other companies call masking fluid. So do you see that right there? It's like my fingers sticking to it right now. So I put it down and let it dry. It takes maybe, it depends on the humidity where you live. Since I'm in a humid climate, it generally takes about an hour for it to fully dry. Um, but some places, like in Arizona, when I've been there, geez, it dries lickety split. Um, then you paint over top of it. So that's what I did here with a watercolor wash. And then once the watercolor wash is fully dry, make sure it's completely dry. Then you can use your finger. Some people will use a cloth, like an old T-shirt, or with your finger in it to roll it off. Or you can use this. My favorite is to use the gum eraser. You preserve your fingerprint that way, especially if you're doing a lot. And you literally will roll it over top. Thank you, Salmon's girl. So I would literally roll this over the top here, and it lifts up that gumminess off of the surface to expose the white paper underneath. Oops. Are you able to see that? Let me see. Maybe if I do it like this, you'll be able to see it more easily. But this gum eraser just grips onto there. Now, it's not a good idea to leave the gum on there for a long period of time because it can make it more difficult to pull the gum off. So it is recommended that um, you try to do it in the same day. Any particular brand of masking fluid. I I use the Pebeo. I've used it for a million years, like ever since I've been an artist. Um, and I'll show it to you. This is what it looks like. So a lot of stores you go into, a lot of even the arts and crafts stores, as well as the the fine art stores, you will find this. It's called drawing gum, but it is a masking fluid. But as I mentioned earlier, Winsor Newton makes one. It's yellow instead of blue, like this one is blue when it goes on. That's so that you can see where it is when you put it on the paper. If it were clear, you wouldn't be able to see where you put it, right? The interesting thing about the drawing gum that I learned from the folks at Pebeo, because I've worked with them for 14 years, I believe. Um, they said you can dilute it up to 50% with water. So when this starts to get older and a little bit thicker, like exactly this right here. Hey, Barbara. Yay. I see Barbara over on YouTube. the This was beginning to get a little bit thick. So I just used a dropper and put more water in it and shook it around a little bit, and that helps to rehydrate it. Now, once it's dry, you can't rehydrate it, but when it's just beginning to get thick, you can still add water to it, which is awesome. Hey, Barbara, have you ever used the a masking fluid of some sort? I was wondering if you had tried that with any watercolor. Actually, the drawing gum that I just showed you from Pebeo is so good. It is a natural gum, natural rubber. Oh, latex. It's a latex. So if you have a latex allergy, it's not a good one for you. You need to look for one that is a non-latex. So bear that in mind. Most masking fluids are latex. Okay. So if you're latex sensitive, you need to look for one that says no latex. And actually, Pebeo has one there's a little, this one says natural latex. There's another one that says no latex. Okay. So that you know to look for the one with no latex if you have a latex sensitivity. The difference being that the one that has no latex in it, um, I make sure with the no latex that I remove it the same day that I put it on. Unless I'm putting it on at like 2 in the morning, I know I'm okay to take it off at 10 o'clock later on in the morning. But really, if you're using the no latex one, you should use it all within the same day, um, or the same 24 hours in order to assure that you can remove it. Because I find that the non-latex can soak into the paper and make it difficult to remove. And that also, of course, has to do with the paper that you're using. So You may want to do some tests on different kinds of paper with the masking fluid to be sure that you're getting the right effect that you're looking for. Okay. So that's masking fluid. And that's something that um, Kate mentioned in her book was about masking fluid and how to use it. And then this was one of the samplers from the book of all like different doing a background and then dropping in color, the same color, dropping in a different color, dropping in water, making different circles and things with it, making interesting shapes, and then putting water, like I'm more paint in one spot, letting it dry, and then putting some dots of color on it. So there are all these different um, ideas that she has for ways to enhance your watercolor. And she shows you how to do these. She shows you how to do them in the book. So if you weren't here earlier, we're we're talking about this book, which is Creative Abstract Watercolor by Kate Rebecca Leach. Woo! Love the book. Love her work. Oh my gosh, fabulous. Um, okay, so I think we are ready to go up over top of the table because I want to show you some things. We're going to do some things. Ooh, one more thing before we go over the table. And that I'm dropping stuff, of course. This is, I just showed you a watercolor sampler, right? So this was using watercolor on a brush to get these different effects. This is using a pen and working with some of the designs that she shows in the book. Now, I found it interesting that in the book, she does not have a section on a sampler section on mark making, which I thought was very interesting. Although she shows a lot of marks and talks about them in relation to putting them on top of the watercolors, the dry watercolors. But what I wanted to do was show you some of the different kinds of marks that I've seen her do in her book. And what I'm going to do, and then there are a few that I like to make. Like I like to make these pea pods, and I like to make the poppy pods. So those are shapes that I like to do. And so I added them on the sampler. What I'm going to do is when I write the article in the next couple of days for this workshop, I am going to include a download, a PDF download of this sampler. So you'll be welcome to click on that. It'll be on my website. So my website is deetsart.com. Let me see, where is it? Yeah, there it is right there. So deetsart.com, and you'll be able to see my various articles. So every time I do a workshop like this, of course, I've saved the video to YouTube because I find on Whatnot that the workshops are gone after 3 months. So in order to have them be evergreen, I put them up on YouTube and then I write an article and hold that up again. Yes, of course. There you go. So that's the website and my Instagram, my Facebook, my YouTube, my coffee.com if you want to throw me a tip there at the bottom. But I love that Whatnot lets us do tips as well. Thank you, Whatnot. Whatnot's awesome for that. So on my website, which is thedeetsart.com, when I write this article later this week, then I will include this page as a download. And that is the my mark making session. But I'm going to show you what I use to make these marks, and we'll do a few of them together so you can see how it's done. All right. As well as we're going to do some of the watercolor samplers. And I'm going to work on that beautiful mixed media paper that I told you about. So this one right here by Fabriano. I like the smoothness of it. It's not quite hot press, which is like super smooth, but still it's a little smoother than your regular watercolor. So let's go over top of the table. Okay, so let's talk about mark making first, um, because that's one of the things that really makes her artwork special. Let me show you the book again. You see this like, oh, they did a beautiful job putting foil on the cover of it. Um, Creative abstract watercolor, but you'll notice that she has dots, she has lines, she has circles, little lines with dots at the end of them. Just beautiful, beautiful marks. So let me show you what I did to create this sampler for myself for marks. I used the Pentel pen that I showed you earlier. That's the Pentel Pocket Brush pen. And then I also used the um, Sakura microns. Now, the interesting thing about the Sakura microns, if you didn't know, is they come in all different sizes, tip sizes. And it has from a teeny, teeny, tiny tip, which is a point zero, or it's a 0.005, to a all the way up to what they call a brush nib and then a graphic nib. The graphic nib is like a hard plastic and the brush nib is a short brush, but let me tell you, this is a little bit longer brush, the Pentel, and the Pentel is my favorite. I mean, you know, if you get the brush tip in this set, which I will be linking the set in the Love My Microns, right, Salmon's girl? So, um, with the microns, I will be linking this set or a similar set in the description of the video at the videos over on YouTube. The ones that I use the most myself are the 08, the 05, and the graphic. Those are the three that I use the most. But there are occasions to use the smaller ones like the 01. I have them. I have all the sizes, okay? Because I'm not going to be without my microns. And I like having the flexibility of the different nib sizes. As a matter of fact, let me show you which one is this the 05, the 01, and the brush. And the one, I'll just use a couple of these and show you what the line weight looks like. So here's the teeny tiniest one, 005. Oh, by the way, these come in different colors, not just in black. But here's the tiny one. So that is 005. Then let's do 01 here, little bit darker and bigger. Then here's the 05, even more bold. Here's the, oh, where's the 08? I use the 08 a lot for signing my artwork. I just find that's the size I gravitate towards. So here's the 08. It'd probably help if I wrote here what it was, right? For you. There's the 08. Here's the 05. Ah, you didn't know that they came in different colors. Yes, ma'am. They sure do. You can buy them in sets with the different colors. Okay. Here's the oh wait. Here's the 01. And then here, where's the 005? There's the 005. Some people like to use the 005, like if you're doing whiskers or you're doing hair on an animal, or even on a person, and you want to do like a little whisk. Sometimes that 005 comes in really handy. And then here is the hard nib, what they call graphic. You see where it says graphic right there, number one. So I use this one a lot when I want a heavier line. So this is the GR I'll put for graphic. And then here is their brush nib. So they have a little brush here. And the nice thing about a brush nib is that you can press and get a variation in the shape. So if you want a more organic line, the brush nib is good. But I find that the brush nib doesn't keep its tip very well. So if you want to do the more organic brush lines, this one works and it comes in the sets. But oh, honey, this one right here, the Pentel, amazing because it keeps its tip. So I can do super thin lines with the Pentel, or I can apply a little bit of pressure and get a more organic line. It is just a dream. This one is a dream. Let me see what it is. I got lucky and one of my units has a whole case of those. Oh, one of the units that you got from for uh what is that? A storage unit or something like that, right? Ah, nice. Okay, let me since you asked or since you mentioned it, these are some of the colored ones. So you can tell what color it is by what the back end. So see there. Um, and you can get the different colors in a variation of nib sizes. So these two, oh, look, I have two reds in the '05. I think I got myself a whole set of the '05 because it's a very versatile size. But there I've got red, pink, a dark brown, a dark green, a light green. You see those there. So that's and you can see them on the tip too. Yeah, storage unit, right. Okay, Salmon's girl, cool. But there are various colors up here that and then the colors on the bottom. So I usually store them like this because it's easier for me to see the back ends of them. I have them in a cup over here next to me. So let me show you what that's the '05 line. So I'll just put it here so you can see. That's the weight of the ones that I have. But I think you can get them in various weights. Um, but if what you want to do is something more flowy, like here, where you can really work with the heaviness of the line and the thinness of the line. Let's do this and oh, like that, and then so what I love about this brush is that you can use it. You can use it for like pen calligraphy and stuff because you can get the thick and the thin, um, and that's why here you'll see these circles right here. How organic they look. This is the best marker for that. Because you're not going to be able to get that very effectively with these microns because they don't, even the brush micron doesn't do a very good job of it. So here I'm going to go lightly and then I'm going to press and I'm going to get some thickness and then I'm going to lift up and I've got a light line. So now I've got the most gorgeous organic looking circle right there from using this Pentel pen. Yeah. So, and then I love doing lines like this, where it's kind of flowy and a little bit thick and thin, and that's what this is great for. And then you can go back in, and it's super easy with that tip to either make circles like this or to fill in the circle like that. Super easy to do that kind of thing with it. Just phenomenal. I can go very light, not as light as the tiny ones of these, but I have a lot of control on this brush. But I also like how when you work with this brush, the lines look a little bit organic. So you see that there. So if I make a circle with it, which is so I didn't do the thick thin there. I just used the tip of it. And then if I want to do these rays like this, and I'm just using the tip like that. And then when I get out here, I push it down a little bit more to get it thicker. I'm telling you, if you haven't used one of these pens for your art journaling or your artwork, you are going to fall in love just like I did with this Pentel pen. And I will put a link to it in the description of the video. But you'll see that even doing circles, doing squares, this is literally done just by pressure on the brush. So I start light and then I add some pressure and then I lift. Start light, add some pressure, and then lift. And it just keeps a beautiful tip and the ink flows out. This is Japanese. It's for people that do, calligraphy. Let's see. I'm trying to think of a character that I mean, I can do my favorite Chinese character. which is jong like that. And so it's made for sitting there and doing, you know, Japanese kanji and stuff like that. It works incredibly well for doing that kind of thing. But you can see here one of my favorite ways that this author create some interest in her works is to either use a pen or to actually use the brush with watercolor to create this kind of design. So I'm going to show you what that is. It's like quilting. If you've ever done quilting before, you're basically moving the fabric around and getting this really cool um, effect. So I'm going to start here and bring it in. And the neat thing is you just sort of play around with the shapes and just keep it flowing like that. Now I can do it as just one continuous line if I want to, which is, I have taken quilting classes before and it's so much fun. It's very relaxing to do this kind of shape work. And look at that. Isn't that fun? It is just so relaxing and awesome to play around with things like that. And you may discover that you find shapes that you really like, um, that you want to do more on a regular basis. This is a shape that I found within the book that I just showed you, and it's like this long sort of capsule shape like this. And I just thought that was so cool. And I didn't think to do it before. And then if I want to get dots around it and lines, I can use this pen, but I like to go in and do something a little more precise. Like let's use the 01 here to draw lines inside here. So these are thin lines. You can put them close together. You can space them so that they're not even. You can make them dashes of different sizes. So that's what I like about looking in books is they give you inspiration to maybe think out of the box and do something that you haven't done before or that you don't normally do. Now I'm going to take the size 1, which they call their graphic, because it's easier to get bigger dots that way. I have more control over creating my dots with using a micron pen like this, like the graphic one, than using a soft tip like this. I can do circles with the soft tip, but I'll show you in just a second that they're not nearly as even as these are. Okay, so that's what I use the graphic for a lot, is getting like these even dots, kind of like that. Now, let me show you the kind of circles that I'm doing with this Pentel brush pen. Is I'm holding it more straight up and down like this and up closer so I have more control. And then it's so smooth, so smooth. Part of it is the fact that this is a smooth paper as well. So just practice, 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 making circles. You may or may not want them to overlap. If you don't want it to overlap, you may want to do the circle a little thicker. So there you go with some organic circles. Oh, love it. Love it, love it, love it. So that's how I use these to get those variations. Okay, definitely studio staple. Now this says that it's permanent, but like I said, it puts down so much ink that you really have to wait for it to dry. Let's see, this we just did this a few minutes ago. There's a tiny bit of, yeah, that's pretty good. I thought that that would still lift up, but look at that. Let's see if these lift at all. Yeah, there's just a tiny bit of gray coming off of those, but I just put them down. So if you do want to create some shadowing, you can come right behind. Let's say that I want to do a circle like this. I want it really thick. at the bottom, which means it's juicy and it's still wet. And then you can come in with a brush and sort of pull it out and create like a sort of a shadow right there, right? As long as it's still wet, you can do that. Now, what I'm going to do is make sure that I rinse this brush out right away because this is permanent ink. And so I don't want the permanent ink to get crusty on my brush, right? There we go. So that's some of the ways that you can work with. Oh, you know what? I don't know with this one. It's it works, but it's this brush is just not even close to the Pentel. Okay, so you can also, while it's still wet, pull some of the ink off of the micron as well, as long as it's deposited a bunch of color. Nice. Okay. Any questions or special requests in terms of these shapes? Anything that y'all want me to demonstrate for you? Otherwise, we will move on to the watercolor. Just let me know if there's something that you want to do. Now, what we're going to start with is we're going to start with doing a watercolor. And I'll take this off of here. We're going to start with creating a background of a watercolor like this, one of these. So this is simply putting swaths of paint here with lots of water, nice and juicy. We're going to try it on the mixed media paper here with some of my colors that I have. Uh, I'm going to set this aside, but if somebody wants me to demonstrate one of these shapes, just let me know and I'll be happy to do that. But the download will be in the article on my website in the next couple of days. All right. And actually, I added a newsletter sign up to my website. So if you go to my website and you look at the menu, and that's dietzart.com, DIETZART.com, you can go to the tab or go to the menu and select the menu item for newsletter and put your information in, and then you'll be on my mailing list. And I will be when I mail this mailing list out, you'll know when the article is live and you can go get this and print it out for yourself. Okay. Mm. All right. So we're going to work on this mixed media paper. I need, since we're going to be doing wishy-washy lines of color, I'm going to use this big brush. So see how big the tip of it is? Like this is the brush that I'm normally using. That's a size 10 from Princeton Velvet Touch. So that's a pretty big top. But if you'll notice the difference between these two in terms of the shape of the brush, this one has a longer tip to it. And so it's better for doing things that are, what would you call it, more preciseness. This one, which is a Christy Rice brush, number 12 round. So this is a 10 round and this is a 12 round, but the shape is different. There's a lot more long bristles here and it holds a lot more water. So I'm going to start with this one and get lots of water in it. And what colors do we want to do today? Oh my gosh. Okay, let's see. Any preferences, anybody, for colors? I'll be happy to work with the colors that you'd like. Otherwise, I'll just grab some colors. I love this, the color that's here. I created my own pan for it here. It's the Cascade Green from Daniel Smith. Oh my gosh, it comes in a tube. I think they have the pans too, but there's so much more paint in a tube that I like to grab it from the tube. So let's make sure we have plenty of paint and we have plenty of water. Okay, that's the trick with doing these abstracts, is having lots and lots and lots of water. Now I just got a little blurb of paint right there, so I'm actually going to use that as an opportunity to lay my color out right here. And I'm going to add plenty of water so I get lots of movement in the color. You don't have to worry about going off the edge or what the exact shape is. It doesn't matter. We're doing abstract here. Blues and greens. Okay, so that's kind of a blue green. One of the things that I love about the Daniel Smith Cascade Green is that it's green, but it has a blue undertone. So actually, when you take a look at it like this, you can see the separation of that sort of tealy green and the tealy blue and the green. Love it. My favorite blue green. Okay, so let's do something that's kind of, this is a cobalt teal that I'm picking up right now. Cobalt teal, lots of water, lots and lots of water. Okay, and so I can do it thickly, I can do it thin. What I like to do is I like to touch while the other one is still wet and and make sure you have plenty of water on here so that the paints will, um, they'll mingle, right? Some people don't like the touchy mingly, but I do. Okay, let's get another green in here. This is called Terra Vert by, let me see, what brand is it? It's Michael Harding Watercolors. And it's a very soft green. So let's pull this soft green here. Lots of water, tons and tons and tons of water, okay? For what we're trying to do. And it's okay to leave some white space in between. It's good to touchy and get that, but then it's also good to leave some white space, and I'll show you why later, because you can put dots, dashes, all kinds of cool stuff in that white space that will show up beautifully. Okay, this is Terra Vert. It's a very organic and light kind of green. I actually want to make it a little bit thicker here so that I can put another color below it because there's this incredible olive green in her palette. So this is the Christy Rice palette, and she has this really nice olive green here. So that's the next one. So you notice that with her palette, it comes with 12. I added white and Cascade green to my palette, as well as I added a couple of extra colors in here just because there are other colors that I like. And so this is a travel set, and that gives me more of the colors that I like to play with. Okay, lots of water, lots of water. Oh, you see that? It's like a green gold, isn't it? So let's actually take some of this crazy fluorescent yellow that she has in here and really punch up that green gold. Back to the green gold. Bring more of that in. So I've got this like really cool strip or stripe of yellow fluorescent in there. Why not? Let's do it. That's the fun of watercolor is like really, well, when you're doing this kind of abstract watercolor, just, this is your chance to play. Looks like the start of a sky on the horizon. Up here, I would imagine you're talking about. Okay, let's see. What blue does she have in here? I know she has like a tealy turquoise, and then she has something that's sort of like a cerulean blue. So let's see what this looks like. Notice I don't have a little color swatch card for her palette. When I use her palette, I just choose to live dangerously. I have an idea what the colors look like, so I just go with that. Oh my gosh. Beautiful. Beautiful. Very grounding. Let's do like some little waves in there. That's kind of fun, right? I think you can see that okay. Now I'm going to take that. My brush has some of this on it, right? I'm gonna take that and I'm just gonna sort of do this. I could be a little more purposeful and do this if I wanted to get little lots of water, lots and lots of water. That's the trick here. Okay. So I can, when that dries, it'll have these really cool dots of that color. So it ties the top and the bottom together. Oh, so this is looking to me like a sky, uh, land in the distance, land closer up, water in front of it. What the heck? Right? I'm going to move back to this light blue and cerulean blue area. So it's a little different. The blues are a little bit different here. Lots of water, tons of water, y'all. It's called watercolor. So don't be afraid to put lots and lots and lots of water in there. Okay. Ooh. Ooh, and you know what? The set that I got from Critter Chops, if y'all are on Whatnot and you don't follow him yet, go follow Critter, Critter, Chops, Chops, because he makes his own watercolors. And I'm going to show you right now. That's what I put in this other empty Christy Rice container here. So all of these here are from Critter Chops. And you see all the variations of blue right there? So let's grab one of those. Why not? Let's grab, I love this one that he calls Blutiful. It's the third one in. It's hard when you have paint like this in a pan. Um, me too. there's there's the water. Yeah, 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 exactly. Um, so what I was saying here is that like this blue look very similar to one another. But if you look in the pans, this one, True Blue, looks black before you add water to it. So it can be helpful to have your swatch card so that it keeps you informed as to um, what the color is going to look like. Now, I want to show you an interesting effect because we used a lot of water. Here, this is cerulean blue, but can you see the granulation? I'm not sure if you can see it granulating, but it's granulating a lot over here. That means by granulating, I mean that the pigment particles are larger than a paint like this that doesn't granulate. And so you get variation. And I love that. If you use lots of water with a granulating paint, oh my gosh, it's just so fabulous. Okay, this is one of the other. Oh, thank you. This is Blutiful from Critter Chops. Gorgeous. So if you're on Whatnot and you have a chance, go check out Critter Chops page, and he makes his own watercolors. So they are fabulous. Okay. I'm just gonna, the neat thing about watercolor is you can resuspend it. So even once it's down, you can come back and add more water. Like right now, this paper's doing this because it's not watercolor paper, it's mixed media paper. But you can use that to your advantage because if I add lots of water here, I can get it to drip. Let's get it to drip. Why not? Come on, y'all. Drip, 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 drip. Right? I want it to drip. There it goes. I had to encourage it. Yes. Let's add just a little more water in here. See if we can get it to drip some more over here. And that's kind of a fun effect, right? Ta-da! So now I'm going to do it this way. So it goes along the top, and I'm going to do it this way. So at this point, while you're kind of building these layers, just have fun with it. Add lots of water. Let's see, Queen of Bohemian. I'm trying to find him. Oh, it's Critter, Critter, and Chops, Chops, Critter Chops. Oh, okay. I'm very happy with what I'm seeing here. I love, love, love these colors. So good suggestion, Salmon's Girl, to go with the greens and the blues. I'm loving them. Now, the interesting thing is some of these are beginning to dry and you can see some interesting splotching going on here. And another trick I like to use is to take a paper towel and lift some of that up. So while it's still wet, I'll either use the corner of the paper towel or sometimes I just lay it right down on top. But let's use the corner of the paper towel. If I want to move along, I just pick up some of the color like this. It just sucks it right in. You see that? And that way, it'll dry faster that way. And you'll still have the interesting effect. If I lay my paper towel down on top, what's going to happen is it's going to pull the color up with it. And so it's going to have a different look to it. You see there? Let's just do that for fun. So I'm pulling up some of that so it'll dry faster. But it looks different when you do the dabbing method versus when you just take a corner of your paper towel and you lift out a little bit of the color just with the corner to help it dry faster. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I'm patient and I just wait. But most of the time I'm like, come on, giddy up, let's get going. So see, I'm not getting rid of the darkness. I'm just picking up some of the water here. And we're going to set this aside because it has to dry. Ooh, although I can take clear water. So this is where having a clean brush is helpful. And having lots of clean water. So here's some clean water. Well, almost clean water. Um, now what I'm going to do is in this area, I'm just going to tap some plain water. So you don't always have to use paint on your brush. You can just use water. And that'll give us kind of a raindrop almost look. So you leave it on there for just a moment, and then we're going to lift it back up. Okay. Thank you, water. Clean water. Here we are. So I let that sit for just a second so that it can resuspend the paint that's on the surface. And then I'm going to use a clean paper towel. There. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. You can sort of see the paint underneath begin to um, reactivate. And then I'm going to take I use Viva paper towels because it's more like that he's on. Oh, you couldn't pull up Critter Chops because he's live right now. Yeah, he's actually he is doing his stamps. I bought this rubber stamp from him. He's doing a rubber stamp show right now. I love his rub. Well, I just love him. He's awesome. Um, so now this has been sitting on there for a minute. So I should be able to. There's a rough side and a smooth side to these Viva paper towels. I'm going to lay down the smooth side like this. And then I'm going to pick up that excess water. And then this will give you what looks like raindrops. Okay. Pew, 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 pew. If I had a little roller, I would roll it over top. That would help to get everything. There we go. There's that. I'm just using a palette knife since it's handy. Boop. Okay. Phew. Nice. So that's going to give you that sort of distressed look. So you see how I picked up some of the paint. And so now you can see light areas where the paint was picked up. Okay. So that's using just clean water instead of using a brush with paint on it. So you can get those different effects. And I just encourage you to do this over and over and over again with different color combinations. So you begin to develop um, the palette that you like to work with. Um, and the colors that you like to work with in particular, because some colors granulate, some colors don't, and some play nicely with each other and some don't. Some push the other paints out of the way. So you want to look at what the different. Hey, there's Critter Chops. Thanks, Critter Chop. How's it going? I was just telling everybody to go follow you because I was demonstrating your beautiful watercolor paint that I put in this Christy Rice. Um, I put your pans in this Christy Rice um, travel set. Woohoo! Now, at this point, we're going to throw in some of the metallics. Fire! Yeah, thanks, Critter Chops. I love your blues. I know you have so many blues in your line that are fabulous. Now, this is the starry colors from Kuretake Gansei Tambi, and I'm going to drop some of that in. Why not? Why not? Let's use a light gold. These are a pan watercolor. So the ones I was using there were from the tube, and then the ones that were in this were in the half pans, and now this is a full size pan of the Ganzi Tambis. So here we're going to pull some of this gold. Let's see, Critter Chops, when do you sell your paints? Oh, good question. Good question for Critter Chops over there on Whatnot. Okay, so now I have a bunch of gold in here. Let's just, instead of holding the brush like I normally would, let's hold it like a kid would grab a crayon, right? So we're holding it a little bit differently. And I'm just going to throw in some gold here. And oftentimes the metallics, you can't see them very well on camera or your photographs, but when people see your work in person, it's like, wow. So let's just add a little bit here, kind of random, like random marks with the gold. Why not? And then that is a light gold. It's actually called light gold. Let's do this yellow gold, which is a little more bold. You might be able to see it better. Let's see, when you come over on my show, yeah, Critter Chops has beautiful watercolors. My favorite are his blues, all the variation of blues. Okay, so let's put this, I'm going to go this direction instead then, and let's sort of bring it between these two. So, and now I'm holding it a different way. So don't just hold your brush always in one way. You can experiment, you can hold it in different ways. Right now, I'm holding it like I would hold my Chinese brushes, like this. Oh, that's so pretty. So I'm just sort of creating some interesting lines here of varying shapes, lengths, all of that. Ah, so pretty. Now, when I rinse this in my bowl here, what's going to happen is it's going to get this residue of gold in there. And usually I try to do my metallics at the end, but right now we need to do the metallics in the middle. Oh, but yeah, I usually try to leave them till the end so that I don't contaminate my water so much. Okay, let me bring it up and move the paper so you can see the beautifulness like that. Okay, so you should be able to see that those metallic effects, right? Nice. Okay, so we're going to set this aside so it can dry. Actually, because it is watercolor and it evaporates with air, I could literally just do this to get it dry. So it is okay to hit with a heat gun if you want to move along. But usually what I do is I just set it aside and work on something else. Okay. So I'm just going to get it started. Started. There we go. And I'm going to set this aside. Whoop, we'll get back to it. All right. So now let's look at, I'm looking to see, like I said, I prepared some of these sheets ahead of time. This is the pebbles. Let me see, what else do I have here? I have, this is one of the samplers. right there. What I like in her book, and we are discussing Kate Rebecca Leach's Creative Abstract Watercolor. What I love is the exercises in this book, the warm ups in the beginning. Oh my gosh, I could see doing them over and over and over again because you want to play with different colors, right? So in here, this is where she shows you different shapes um, and variations within the shape. So you want to get your paint nice and wet so that you've got some areas that have dense paint and some areas that are very light. Okay. And then she creates, so that's what I did here is I followed some of her shapes and lots of water. See these dots? I adore these dots. So that's something that I picked up from her book. Even though I've been painting for 20 years, you can pick something up from every other artist, I believe. That's my belief. And especially when they take the time to work it through and write a book. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Kate. And so this was color, but using lots of water. Let me demonstrate. Let me demonstrate real quickly. So here's a nice blue here. And the neat thing is where she shows all of this combining of color. She's not generally just going straight from, okay, one color on the page. She's mixing the colors together. Lots of water, lots of water. Can you see that okay? Let's move it over a little bit for the people on YouTube because they have that whatnot um, logo there. So I've got a bunch of blue on here, but I'm not satisfied with just the blue. Let's take some of this Caroline green, which is a deep green. Oh, now you're talking. So variation, variation, variation. Nice. Now I want a little more blue. Now I want a little bit more of that. So the brush is nice and juicy, lots of water. And then she's laying in dots like this. And that's how she's getting her little dot variations, which I think are super cute. Okay, now I want to change it up. See how there are multiple colors in there? So now I can just give a little swirl. Let's pick up some brown while we're at it. So we've got the blue still on our brush like this. Let's get a little bit of that sienna in there. So now I've got a bit of a different color in there. Oops, there's a hair on there. Dog hair alert. So now I've got some variation going in my colors. When they dry, they'll actually look different. Lots and lots of water you want. And then let's bring in more of the brown there. I go through the sienna really fast. Okay, plenty of water. And let's do some more dots. And they're going to be a little bit more brown. Okay, so that's how you're getting the variation here. You just keep some of the color on your brush, pick up some of the other color, blend them together. Fun, fun, fun. And put these little dots and you'll get these incredible little I don't I think they're fabulous. And that's something that I've never toyed with or played with. And but it's something that I picked up from her book that I love. So I highly recommend if you don't have it already. I will have a link to this book in the description of my YouTube video later tonight or tomorrow morning. All right. So you can go pick it up. Nature's glitter. All right. So now I've got, let's do some of this on a different sheet. Like, see this little piece of watercolor paper? It was something I was working on another project and I cut the project. Thanks for the hearts. I appreciate it. Always, always. um, so I just said, okay, well, let's not let that go to waste. Let's turn it over. And these are some of her um, Kate's using different colors, some of her exercises. So, if you just keep your little scrap pieces of watercolor and use them for exercises like this, okay? So let me get some more watercolor. Yeah, watercolor paper. Woo. So this is my Canson watercolor paper. Yes, I'm going right on to watercolor paper. If you're going to do these exercises, it is helpful to do, um, I mean, you can do them on the cheap paper, and then I would say, then try them on the 140-pound watercolor paper because the sizing is a little bit different. Um, this is one of my favorites also, is I do a lot of swirls. No matter what medium I'm working in, I do swirls. So put in the comments what your go-to shapes are. Some people like leaves, some people like a tulip, some people like I do swirls. I do swirls a lot. So let's do a swirl in the this magenta. So this is a tube magenta, and I'm just getting a bunch of water in there. And I'm going to hold the brush up and just sort of gently, lightly let it be very organic and go around like that. Oh my gosh, fabulous. Let's do it again with a little bit darker. And I'm just letting lots of paint, lots of water. I go back. I like to add more water with more paint in it to get some variation going. Oh, yes, love that. Dragon Hoarder. Dragon Hoarder's in. Is she here? Awesome. So now, while I have this on my brush, let's just sort of create with the belly of the brush a little shape coming off of it. Interesting, right? Really working it out. Lots of water. All right. Then what's another color that would go well? I love the drama of Paraline Green. That's what this one is. Daniel Smith, Paraline Green. So let me just do another. Why don't I start from the outside instead of starting from the inside and then come to the inside? So we're doing something we're doing it backwards. If you give yourself permission to play like this, then you may discover other color combinations that you like that you didn't even know that you liked. So these are more swirls that she had suggested. Let's take more of that. And I'm just, whatever's next to it on the palette here, let's just mix it together. That's fine. I'm going to do another swirl or another whoosh here. Now, the whooshes that I'm doing are because I was doing some research for the show. And these are some other artists that um, I liked from Pinterest and you see this one right here where they're doing swirls, they're putting different colors in it, then they're doing swishes out from it. Is that fun? Is that beautiful? And I don't even know who this artist is because on Pinterest, it's not as easy to figure out who the artists are sometimes. But if you go into Pinterest and in the search bar, you type watercolor abstract art. That's where I found this one. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let's put some of this while this is still wet. I'm going to put some of that in there so it kind of makes it a purple. So give yourself permission to play. That's one of the things she talks about in the book. And this is playing with purpose here. So let's do some more of her type of exercises. Remember that I showed you the meandering line here. Let me grab the meandering line. Oh, did you hear something just drop? Yeah. So this is the meandering line. What is the harmonious poetry monotype your work? I'm not sure which is the harmonious. Oh, Florida Glass Girl. Sorry, y'all are having a conversation. So I've got this little bit of paint in the background. And one of the things that she teaches you in this book is how to, like, you put down paint with lots of water, but then you have to have a little patience because you have to wait. And you want it to be dry, like this is fully dry, before we go in and we put more paint on top of it. So let me see which brush I want to do this with. I think using my number 10 Princeton would be good. So let's see what color I want to use here. Now, I love doing the very blushy background like this, and then coming over top of the blushy background with a more intense color. So let's grab this one where there's a little lump right here of paint straight out of the tube. So that will, oh, it says, sorry, I mean the shop. So I'm not sure what the conversation is right now over there. So now I've got plenty of paint in here. It's a nice deep color. I've got this blushy block right here. So now I can come in. Notice I'm holding it kind of like a Chinese brush. And I can do this quilting pattern on top. But it is important to make sure that the paint underneath is fully dry when you do this. Because what I find is if I try to do this technique and the paint underneath is not fully dry, it just spreads out all over the place. And that's no fun. The purpose is that I want it to sit on top with this design. There we go. Ah, love that. Can you see where that's kind of like a coral or something? Blue. You wanted blue, right? Or you're saying blue because this whole page is like blue. There we go. So you see how fun and meditative that like continuous sort of coral line is, what I would call a quilting line, because when you're quilting, you make all those really cool squiggly marks. It's something that you study when you're quilting. Yes, and you love blue, dragon hoarder. I thought you liked purple as well. You like purple? Or is oh, there's somebody else that has purple in their name and they love purple. Okay, so that was that shape. Now I want to show you this other trick. I'm full of tricks. Um, so let's mix up some purple. What the heck? Why not? So I'm going to take some of this magenta, which is the best to mix my purples with, and I'm going to add it to some of this cerulean. So I get this really pretty purple, just like that. It's so easy when you know your colors. So what I want to do here is I want to create little leaves. So I'm just adding it in here. I'm going to turn this sideways. So I've got a leaf there. I've got a leaf here. So we're just going to put a couple leaves down here with the purple on top of here. Now, if I had a gouache paint, which is an opaque watercolor, I'd be able to put a light color on top of this darker blue. But because I'm working with watercolor, I needed a darker color for it to show up on there. Let's put a small leaf up here. So that's like the top of it, right? And then I'll put a stem in here. All right, cool. Cool, cool. Ah, I keep touching these guys up here because they're not dry yet. That's the trick. Is being disciplined not to stick your whole, arm and your clothes in there. So we're going to leave that for just a second to soak in a little bit. Oh, thanks for sharing the live stream Cookie Blossom. I appreciate that. So I'm going to show you a little trick with this in just a second. Let's get some of that paint to flow. I'm going to remember I said you can use a paper towel. You can lift some of the paint out if you're in a hurry. Like that. It'll just soak up a little bit of that extra because I had lots of water in there. Okay. So it has to be just a little bit drier for me to show you what I'm going to show you. I'm going to use a glass pen, which normally would be a dip pen for ink, but I'm going to show you a trick with watercolors in just a minute. Okay. Um, but we're going to let that dry just a little bit more before I take that. And I got this from Critter Chops. So if you're on Whatnot, go follow Critter Chops, CritterChops. All right. Now, notice that I have circles here and I have these interesting little um, doodads that almost look like leaves here, right? That what this is an exercise in your brush and figuring out what shapes your brush will make. So when I work with this one, remember I mentioned there are two different sizes to the end of these brushes. This is the Christy Rice size 12 round, and this is the Princeton Velvet Touch 10 round, but there's a significant difference in the tip. So if I take this Princeton, now I am going to get a little bit of the water out of there, and I get some of the blue on it, and then I come over here and I'm putting the tip down and then going down to get a shape similar to that. It's a little bit thin. If I want the shape to be wider, I have to literally go in a second time to get that wider to create sort of a teardrop like these. But if I'm using Christy Rice's brush, and this is why us artists have to have like a million different brushes. And you're like, but you already have a 12 round. Yeah, but I don't have this exact shape of 12 round. So, oh, I see I dripped some water there. Let me get that up. So now I'm going to take this Christy Rice and I'm going to put it down and it's going to fan out a lot more on one stroke. Do you see that? One stroke gives me that shape. Here I had to use two strokes with the Velvet Touch. Always need more brushes. I know, it's crazy. It's crazy, but they're all, this is a 12 round. I could have a 10 round of Christy Rice and a 10 round of Princeton, but the tips are completely different the way they're designed and the way that they hold the paint. So um, if you want to do, and that's the reason for doing these exercises is to get a feel for how do your brushes work and um, what kind of effect are they going to have for you with different shapes. So definitely, I like the Christy Rice size 12 round for doing these kind of teardrop shapes. And the Princeton needed me to do it twice, but to do this corally kind of work, I needed that precise tip on the Princeton Velvet Touch in order to make that happen. So, these kind of exercises are just important so that you can figure out how they work. Okay, let's see. Is it just water only, or do you also have to mix in any flow control? Oh, good question, Cookie Blossom. All water, no, no flow control. This is just water and watercolor paint. But, you know, water control, flow control is that is the magic in watercolor. And that's what sets apart a beginner from somebody who's done a lot of experimenting. That's why if you weren't here earlier, Cookie Blossom, this is the book that I took these exercises from. It's called Creative Abstract Watercolor by Kate Rebecca Leach. And she has her business is called Esoldo Design, ESSOLDO. And she is on Instagram. She has a beautiful page I saw when her book came out. And I was like, I have to buy that. Okay, so these are now beginning to get a little bit drier, these leaves. And what I like to do is I like to take the glass pen, and you could also use a dip pen with a fine tip, but I like the glass pens because they're not quite as sharp at the end. And you want to go into the leaf while it's still damp and create some lines. Now, it does depend on the quality of your watercolor paper, how this is going to turn out. So it is something you want to practice. But the interesting thing is it kind of scratches the surface of the paper, and then the paint will go down into those scratches. It's very cool. So I'll show you that in just a second. I'll bring it up. Now, what I end up doing oftentimes is I will put a little bit more of the paint on after I've done the scratching. You don't want to do the scratching too early while it's too wet. There's a little bit of timing there. So I still have plenty of purple here. So I'm going to drip a little bit more. Ah, that was a lot more. A little bit more purple in there. And what'll happen is it'll go down, the darker will go down inside those lines. Okay. So where's my paper towel? So I'm going to pull some of this up and I'll bring it up for you to see that the darkness of the color went down inside those scratch lines. So it's not dry yet, but you can still see it. You should be able to see those little scratch lines there. I love that technique. So if you have a glass dip pen, think about it for your watercolors, for doing, scratching into your watercolors. We're getting really cool effects. And people will be like, how the heck did you do that? Well, I learned it from Tristina. I don't think she has that technique in the book. That's just something that I like to do. And when I was doing her leaves, I said, oh, okay, I'm going to do that. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So some of the other things that we're going to do here have to do with um, going on top of these samplers with well, here we did different colors, right? Now let's look at some other shapes that we can do using if you weren't here earlier, I showed a sampler of different shapes. So what she likes to do, I have some iron nibs, never thought to try and use glass. Yeah, 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 glass, fabulous. If I have, for instance, this is a white ink. So I can take this white ink. This is a permanent white ink by Diatramentis, okay? So let's do this. Hee hee. I can put my dip pen. It's made for dip pens as well as fountain pens, right? Now I've got white ink on here. So now I can come in here and I can draw. This is what she shows in the book, is how to do drawing like this. And then come on in over top and I'm making dots. So there are lots of white inks out there and white ink markers. I like this Diatramentis document ink white ink. It is a permanent ink once it's dry, and it'll go in your fountain pens as well as you can use it with dip pens. See, I don't want to have too much on the end there. I don't want it to come off in a blob. But oh, see, I kind of had a blob there. Ah, that's all right. I'll get over it, right? So this is the kind of thing. Oops, I gotta have a place to put that down. Excuse me, just a moment there. So do you see there the dots and the following along with the contour and the shape of what's there? That's a lot of what she teaches in her book, is just how to, and to me it's just so meditative and relaxing to do the dot work. And I can do it with the white. I'm doing it on the white because I have dark in the background. Um, if you don't have dark in the background, you can do it on, you can use the black. So we're going to do the black in just a minute. And you can do a combination of the black and the white. So let me just here, I'm going to do some lines. Yeah, you're going to fall in love with using the glass pens. Like I said, I got this glass pen from Critter Chaps. Thank you, Critter Chaps. So this Diatramentis ink is a um, fountain pen ink. Okay, I can clean it off of here just like this. Okay, now I can use any other kind of ink. besides the ink markers that I showed you earlier. And I like to use the ones that are permanent. So that was the, ooh, let me put the lid on it, the Diatramentis. And then there's another permanent ink by a company called Rohrer and Klinger. It's called Sketch ink, and that's also permanent and comes in all different kinds of colors. And you can use it on your dip pens or in your fountain pens. So let's come over here with a black pen. And I'm going to use my Pentel, my favorite. And this is called posting. You see how this pen has a lid? If you take the lid off and then you can put it on the end like that, that's called posting your pen. Okay. I just thought that was, it's like, oh, okay, interesting. Now this one right here, you see how there's dark and there's light. So what she shows you is like how to come in here and in the light area to put your darks. So here I'm just doing some to put your darks in areas like this and put your lights up in these dark blue areas. And then here, let's just do some circles. I'm going to do an organic circle right here. All right. So this is what she shows you in the sampler section here of how to use these various shapes in um, in kind of delineating the different areas. I like, again, the light areas here to take the pen. Now this one right here, instead of using that, I'm going to use the 08 here. And I have some organic circles. So one of the shapes that I like that she does is sort of filling in that circle like this with the dark, and then coming back and drawing lines in there. Isn't that fun? That is so cool. I love it. So if you have circle areas somewhere, think about if there's a light area inside there, highlighting that with some lines like that. Love it. Okay. Let me see. Is there any special requests from here of these different kinds of shapes for me to put onto these backgrounds here? If there's any special requests, let me know and I'll be happy to do it. She does use tons and tons and tons of dots. So let's use, until I don't see anybody commenting, but here is, I like these dots and lines in between. So let's pick one of these and do some of those right now. So right here, I'm going to use a bigger one, 08 for the dots, like this. So I'm going to use the 08 so I can get pretty good size dots going here. Fab. I like the dots to be more organic, so I try not to, make them in lines and rows. But if you prefer more geometric, knock yourself out. Do it that way, because this is your practice. Okay, nice. And then let's do some thin lines. So we'll use the 01. I'm looking for the 01, the 01. There it is. 01. Hey, trying to get this up here, but I. So I'm just going to do some thin lines like this. I love the look of the thin lines. And the fact that you're making the artwork as an artist, it's okay if the hand of the artist shows and the lines are all squiggly. If you don't have a steady hand, don't worry about it. That does not matter because it's important to show that a human did it and not a machine, right? And then let's go back. And what do I have? Yeah, absolutely right. Yes. Somebody needs to know that they're buying artwork, that this is not computer generated art. And I'm just going to put a little circle at the end of each one of these. Why not? Just for some interest. But that's the beautiful thing is I love the way that she gives you in the book lots and lots of visual ideas, and then you can run with it to sort of create your own variations of those ideas. So it's not fun. And then if you want to get really, really, really crazy, where's that 01? Then, you can, oh, let's use the 05, the tiny, tiny one. What if I go from here and I just do like some waves across here? That is so cool. I love the what if. Whenever I would have students in my studio and they would say, well, what if? And I'd say, if you have to ask me what if, that means you need to do it and answer your own question. It's okay. Oh, that's fun. So there you go. There's some fun mark making. Lovely, lovely. Okay. So now another type of white that she uses, well, there are two other types of white that she uses a lot. It's the Posca pens, which have different size nibs to them. You can see here, this one has a bullet tip, and this one has a chisel tip. So those are Posca markers for white, and but Posca comes in all different colors. Good, uh, good. I know these ones. Okay, cool. So this is the Signo Uniball Signo Broad, and she specifically mentions this one as well as the Posca in her book. So I love this white Signo. Well, I usually buy them as a set. So there's silver, white, and gold like this. I usually buy that. And I'll have a link to that in the description of the video tomorrow. So here is the white. What I've found with this is the paper has to be like bone dry. If it is at all damp, this will not work, the Signo. Okay. So let me just let me put some little, and you have to sort of like not press too hard, just be very light on it so it deposits the ink without pushing it down into the paper. So there are some little lines. Of course, we can do um, more circles and dots. Bone dry. Remember, it needs to be bone dry in order to get it to work. And just do it with a light touch. If you do it too heavily, the paint reactivates into the tip of your pen and then the pen won't work. You have to clean off the nib of your pen and then wait for it to be fully dry. So there you go. You see the circles there? Yes. So she uses these a lot. Let me see if this one will work now that it's bone dry. This is the Posca pen. And let's just do some little lines here. Yeah, it's looking good. So that one's working. Yay. There's the Posca pen going on top of there. So it just depends on, what sort of shapes you feel like doing, how thick you want the lines. You have a little more control with these Signo than you do with the Posca, which are a little bit bigger. All right. So those are samples like that. Let's look at this project. So she has tons of beautiful projects in this book. Again, it's Creative Abstract Watercolor by Kate Rebecca Leach. And we were just looking at the samplers. So um, this is the loose stripes that we were just working on. Okay. And we'll get back to that. Then she also works in blocks. You'll see a lot on her Instagram of these blocks. And now we're on to the pebbles. I like the organic shape of the pebbles. I love working with the pebbles a lot. Let me move my water out of the way here. So you'll see that she shows you step by step how to do it in her book. And I've already made a background, a sample. Now I've done two steps already. I created the background, which is what she shows you in the first step. And then I've also added a few more after it was dry. I went back in and added a few more shapes. So if you look here, some circles here, some full circles here, dots, lines, right? So I had to wait for that first layer to dry before I put the second layer on. Now we're going to go ahead and and do some design work on top of that. So let me get the Uniball. One of the things that she shows that's a lot of fun is these lines. Oh, so let's see. I guess this one's a good one. She just does some simple, like geometric lines, which are very not at all like the feel of the organicness of the shapes, right? So she just does something fun like that there. That's a good time. Good time. Then for um I'm going to do for these, I'm going to go to the black. So there's a 0, 5, and I'm going to do the inside circle of these circles. This is the meditative part. This is you've done the work with the watercolor. You've done 2 layers, maybe 3 layers. You let it you've been patient, you let it dry. Now you're going to come in and do the details. And what I love about Kate's book is that she gives you so much eye candy to understand the details. Tons and tons and tons of examples so that you can understand those details. There we go. We're just doing some radiating lines out to the edge of the circles. And so this is black, but after the black, maybe I want to go back in with some white on this same piece. There we go. Very meditative. This is the meditative part. Let's say that I want to go in now with some white and I want to just put some white dots. Let's get it started and then just put some white dots around. She uses lots and lots and lots and lots of dots, which I love. I love the dots. They are fun, easy to do. Again, light touch from the pen. Otherwise, the ink will not flow. So you see that right there? Oh, that is so much fun. Again, very meditative. You're sitting there and just play, play, play. Here with these, I might go and like do little dots on the inside like this. Ooh, they look foreign or alien, don't they? There we go. And this is using the Signo, a Uniball Signo broad. When they say broad, they mean the tip is 1 millimeter. There we go, like that. So you see how that starts to just make that like pop off of there. It gives it like this really unusual look to it. So that's what she does is goes over all of these areas and let me find it and then ends up with something interesting like that. I love her pebbles. Her pebbles are fabulous. Okay, so then later, so she has other projects at the very near the end of her abstract section. What looks awesome? What a fun technique, right? I know her techniques are, I mean, if you don't have this book in your library yet and you have watercolors, you have to get it. But here, I love this one at the end. It says more inspiration, and it is just chock full of lines and dots and circles and just idea after it's phenomenal. And then what I was really surprised by is she uses those same techniques to share with you abstract botanicals. What? So you're using the same, like you're just making botanical shapes instead of making organic shapes, and but you're still going in with the white marker, or you're going in with the black marker, you're experimenting with your colors, you're doing circles. I mean, amazing, amazing, amazing. Can't recommend it enough. All right, let's go back to this one right here, right now, and let's see what it's doing. To-do. Oh, yes. It's most of the way dry. Now, often what I do is I will tape these down so it doesn't wrinkle quite so much. You can take it down, but in the beginning, I like the wishy-washiness of it. But now that this is dry, I might tape it down before I work on it. What I do is I have a one of these. So this is a just a student work board, like an artist work board. And so let's do that real quick. We'll take it off of the mixed media pad like this. And let's just, now they do come, these boards come with where you can attach them right up here like this. So if I were going to be out somewhere and I in a park or something, these are very convenient to hold in your lap, these boards like this. So you can put your artwork on it like that. If you're working with dry media, because I'm working with wet, well, right now I'm going to be working with dry media, but normally when I'm working with the wet media, what I do instead is I will take it here and I'll tape the edges down. So I use a painter's tape, tape it down onto the board. Now you can see there's a handle here. So I kind of have to go over the handle like that in order to tape it down. I know a lot of artists do the taping first before they put the water on it, and it's because they like that beautiful border that you get. As a matter of fact, let me show you the one that I did earlier. So see how I taped it on the paper here? Boop. I taped this one down so that I have that straight edge line around it. And then I worked it and then I pulled the tape off. So I did that on this one. I actually taped this down onto this board. Here's the other one that I taped down. It's this project is from the book, and it's kind of a circular. I call it circular motion is what I call my piece that I did, and that's from her example. But yeah, so I would normally come in here, tape this down like this, just to kind of keep it from being too crazy buckly, right? When I'm going in with my markers. Okay, let's do this. There's a these come with a rubber band. So see this big old rubber band at the bottom here? So if you put your paper in here and then you want to hold the bottom of it, you can use the rubber band. That's for, if you're doing dry media, drawing, that kind of thing. Okay, let's put this over here and kind of get it a little taped down, a little more manageable. All right. So this is where she would, from the book, she would begin to do her dots and her lines. Okay, so we've got the paper here. You can see the shimmer from the gold. Oh, let's move this drink out of the way. Mm, okay, so now this is when in the darker area, I would come in with the white, likely, right? So I could do there are shapes here, so I can follow along with the shape if I want to. That's one technique. I'm going very light on the pen because I don't want it to kind of lift up the watercolor. The watercolor, I normally leave it overnight in order for it to really be bone dry. So I'm sort of highlighting these interesting shapes with a pen. Oh, look, there's a little tiny shape here. And this one right here. I can feel that it's not quite all the way dry, and so it's skipping a little bit. And then inside here, I might put little lines like this. I'm just going very lightly. See, it's skipping. It's skipping, and that's because it's not quite dry yet. You see how that's skipping right there? That means it's not dry enough for the nib. So I would just clean off the nib and wait until later, or get the dip pen and use it with the diatramentus, which would go right over top. Okay. And then you're going to work with your, let's say the 08. Ooh, not the tiny one. Not the tiny one. There's the brush. This is why I have my pens in a container like this. Let's put them in there. This I got off of Whatnot. It's a little Japanese Otagiri, Japan. Beautiful little container. So I usually put these in here like this, and that way I can see from the top what the size is. You see that? So these are sitting next to me like this. And then that way I know what the sizes are and I can just grab the size. So let's say that I want a 08 right here. And I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to put dots in here. So the white areas are great for doing like little dots, lines. So let's say that I want to do some interesting lines now in that white area. And of course, I don't have to keep it in the white area. I can overlap with my lines. And she gives you tons of examples of what to do in the book. And then I'll go back to dots like that. I wouldn't have even thought about doing that, like leaving lots of white space and then filling it with these interesting shapes. But she has opened my eyes with this book to this possibility of how fun this is to do that. So that's building in dots like that. Some of my favorites are where she'll put in a line. So let's put in a line here. I actually have gold, the gold signo. Let's see if this works with the gold signo. So I'm going to draw a line right here with the gold signo. Oh, it went on. Yay. And then what she does is this super cool shape. I'm going to use the 05. And she's using lines like this. Some are small, some are long. Like that. I can do that one down a little bit. And then she's just putting little dots. Well, not little dots, big dots at the ends of them. And it's almost gives you a train track feel. But it's so cool. There we go. Let's do that one. So you can see if I were to go all the way along there with that shape, you see how much interest there is there? It's just so cool. And I'm using it in between those gold ones there. So those are the types of things that she shows you in the book. Like I said, I highly recommend it. Get it, do the exercises in it. Um, she is going to bend your mind for sure. Again, it's creative abstract watercolor. It's Kate Rebecca Leach, Isaldo Design. I'll have a link to it in the description of the video on YouTube. And I invite you to try it and then send me a comment, leave a comment on the video on YouTube about any questions that you might have or how much you enjoyed it, because I am obsessed now. This way you can really play with your watercolors and get a feel for how the colors interact. And then what really makes the painting is all of these details. So dots here, circles here, little bubbles down here. Oops, you might be able to see it better this way. Little loops up here, the little hash lines in between there. You see all of that? So all of that was inspired by looking at what she had in her book. And this was her project right here that I did. And she has more tricks in there that I'm not sharing with you because you have to buy the book so you can so you can learn them. One of them is using Q-tips. And so that's where some of these dots came from, was using a Q-tip, right? So those are some of the other kinds of tips. Ooh, you can get lost in that one, right? There's just so much here, and it was lots of dot, 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 and little teeny lines and stuff, but, it's fun if you like that meditative approach to painting. I think it's amazing. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do the giveaway. That is the that is the end of the workshop portion of the show,